I am grateful for a number of things this evening. It is a real opportunity compared to some other places in our own country as well as around the world that we are able to gather tonight is a big deal. And we have, as a staff and as a community, been talking about the fact of how grateful we are that we only lost one Easter and one Christmas, being unable to gather in person. Of course, we were continuing to worship online. But it seems like at Christmas time, this idea of being online versus being in person, the whole Christmas story is God telling us, I'm coming down there in person to be with you. That is the whole story. It's no longer going to be virtual, talk to your priest, and there will be something. It's, I'm coming to be with you in person. So it is a real gift to be here. We know that there are some for their own situations for whom it's difficult still to be in person, and we know that they are joining us online still, and welcome to you as well. But we treasure this moment, this opportunity to gather. The sermon this evening, there's kind of two parts to it, and the first one, I want to talk about the basic story pieces that we know, right? We know this story. This very lesson, in fact, is read every single year. There are two Christmas stories. You might have missed the wise men. The Matthew account has the wise men but no shepherds. Luke has shepherds but no wise men. But Luke wins every year. Luke is the reading. For centuries upon centuries upon centuries, Christians have gathered in person to hear the story read from Luke that we just heard. We hear about a man and a woman who are traveling when they should not be traveling. And I think sometimes we miss it. We bust out our nice sweaters this time of year, and we have all kinds of lists running in our heads as far as what we're planning for dinner or the gifts, are they coming on time, and so on and so forth. And we lose the striking nature of the story as it's told here. We hear about the emperor saying, we're going to register everyone. And I remember thinking, that doesn't sound like a whole lot, right? I think those of you who are familiar working with spreadsheets probably are thinking, wow, that could be a big job, right? But we need to think about it in a different way. It's not just a big job. This is the empire with an authoritarian move to make sure that they have accounted for everyone so that they can tax everyone, to build the empire, to build the military, to conquer more. That is the purpose of this. Mary and Joseph are nowhere near Bethlehem. She's very pregnant, but because of this is forced. We can't imagine that they are the only ones. But people are forced by the Roman authorities to travel even when it's not wise for them to do so. They travel to places that maybe are where their people were from, but they don't know anyone. Can you even imagine a young woman pregnant returning to the ancestral home of her husband, and there is no room even in the inn? Surely there is some, as my grandfather would say, shirt-tail relative somewhere. This is desperate. They did not choose to do this. An outside authority has forced this march because these people are unregistered, dare we say, even in this day and age, undocumented, and they need to be counted for the purposes of the empire. Mary and Joseph travel under less than ideal circumstances. They are in this place uncounted, and it becomes time for the child to be born. This is not with the person who comes through the hospital asking for the proper spelling for the birth certificate so you can start rolling on the Social Security card, right? This is not the scenario. This is kind of outside of official kinds of things, and not where you would expect the world to be shaking. In some random stable somewhere else. As Elizabeth said so well, we hear about the shepherds who are further yet outside the net of the universe there. These are not the people who are at the center of things. And then if we take it even another step, we think of the wise men from the Gospel of Matthew who will come, and we remember them on Epiphany. These are people outside of the religious circles of the Jewish tradition of that time and place. Outsiders from the Far East who have come, outside of the empire. The other thing I think we need to remember is it wasn't too many weeks ago, in fact, I believe it was just this last Sunday, that we heard Mary's song, the Magnificat. The idea that God comes among us as one of us, that the world is going to be turned upside down, that the high are going to be brought low, and the low are going to be brought high. As I was listening to the radio this afternoon, I guess it's this Sunday is the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Soviet Union. As the high are brought down. The coming of Christ among us as a child changes our world and our lives. It changes structures of things in a way that is unexpected, and we are called to be a part of those changes, and that's not always easy to do. But I want to start pivoting to the second piece here. I remember particularly when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I did not have a lot of experience holding babies. And every once in a while, you'd run into a situation, a family event, or you'd be somewhere, and suddenly somebody thinks it'd be great to hand this 19-year-old kid a baby, right? And the whole universe just stops because you're not confident that you can walk holding the kid. So you just kind of stand still in the hopes that nothing goes wrong in the moment, right? Now, after a few years of being a parent, yeah, you can do all kinds of things, but remember those first moments, the first time when you're not quite sure how to hold this moving thing, and how the whole universe shrinks down to your hands and this child that you're holding. The sense that God did not come among us as Superman, but rather as a baby to absorb our whole attention. The last piece I want to talk to you about is this idea of God coming as one of us. Elizabeth has been sharing the nativity set in the back, but I remember when I was growing up, we had a really fancy nativity set. I remember we had to pull it out every year. Everything was very carefully wrapped. We had all this newspaper that was kind of wadded up around it. They were these painted ceramic nativity set. And it was always put somewhere that was out of our reach, right? It was always put in a careful place where it could be viewed but not touched, right? This idea that it was kind of remote, kept safe from people like me, I guess. But there was a year where something went horribly wrong. The baby Jesus in the manger, in getting set up, was left a little too low, and the dog got it. Now, it wasn't catastrophic, didn't shatter into pieces, but it kind of had a rough go for a little bit. And so ever since that point in time, the baby Jesus comes up and is a little roughed up. But there is this image, though, that's approachable in some ways, right? At our house, we have a lot of nativities. Some of them are on higher shelves and some of them are on lower shelves. But I was walking in the preschool here the other day. There are at least 4, I think, Fisher-Price nativity sets. Those things are indestructible. They've been handled to within an inch of their life. There are camels and shepherds and Marys and Josephs everywhere, within easy reach of the smallest and the youngest. When we think of God coming among us, God comes among us in the thick of things, for the weakest, for the vulnerable, for the smallest, and for us. So as you go about your festivities, as you take the opportunity to gather together, be mindful that God came among us to shake up everything, but not in a way that was remote, but in a way that is close and touchable and tangible. Amen.